Hey everybody, and welcome to another Image to the Modeler. This is now part 2 of my Hasbro Hero Series X-Wing conversion, and I am ready to get started on these wings. Okay guys, well it's time to move on to the wings. I went ahead and set aside the main body for now. As you know, the main challenge is to fill in this gap. So what I did was I used cardboard to cut out a shape that we need here, and then I used this as a template to cut some styrene plastic here. It's 0.4 inch in thickness, and came up with some pieces that fit right into place. And I have one for the opposite side as well. A couple gaps here and there, but that's not a big deal. We can use putty or styrene plastic to fill that in. Then we have to detail it with some panel lines. So we're going to use a scribe tool to make some panel lines that look similar to this. And then these rectangular detailing here that you see, that can be done with just cutting some strips of styrene and gluing them on. Now, I'm sorry I didn't record as I made these here. I was just concentrating on what I was doing. And but basically, when you cut styrene, it's really not that complicated. All I did was I took my template, traced it onto the piece of styrene there. I took advantage of the straight edge here and just lined it up with one of the straight edges of the styrene there. And then, you know, when you cut styrene, you don't have to make a complete cut all the way through. All you have to do is take a sharp X-Acto knife and make a partial cut as you go along the edge. And then all you do is just bend the plastic and it'll break right off along that cut that you made. Okay, well it's time to begin with scribing. So we want to go ahead and duplicate the look of this here. So we have to scribe in some panel lines. And this is our scribing tool here by Tamiya. And it has kind of like a V-shaped blade so that as you run it across the surface, it'll dig a groove into the surface of the styrene. So it's pretty faint here, but I have created some pencil lines to kind of duplicate the look of this. It's not exact, but at least the pattern will be somewhat similar. So that's our first step, is to go ahead and scribe the lines in. And I have our piece secured here with masking tape so it doesn't move on us. So we're going to go ahead and take a straight edge now and start scribing in the lines. Alright, so here we now have the completed pieces, and if you remember, our goal was to get something that looks similar to the opposite side of the wing. So after the scribing, what I did was I took some pieces from Evergreen Scale Models. These are these plastic strips here. I cut them down and glued some onto the surface. And then I had some other styrene that I fashioned this piece with here. And you can see it looks somewhat similar to the opposite side. Okay, so this is polypropylene plastic, and it's very difficult to bond to. At least you can't use your run-of-the-mill super glue. I did some research and found that there is this stuff here made by Loctite that comes in 2 steps. And I've already tested it, so it works pretty well. So again, remember the strategy that I'm using here is I'm going to glue this styrene bar to each side. And that way, this will be the area we can apply our super glue to as we glue our panel onto the wing. And that way, we have more surface area to put glue onto versus just relying on just this very skinny edge. All right, and that'll give us the best chance of this panel staying in place. All right, so essentially this is how it's done. You take this here, it's like a little marker, and you apply this to both surfaces. And I sanded this surface here to rough it up a little bit. Then you wait 60 seconds, and then you apply the glue here to one side. And then you hold your piece in place for the next 30 seconds while it bonds. And so as it does that, I'm going to be using these clamps here to hold it in position. All right, so let me just show you how that's done real quick. Okay, now after it's dried here, and it only took about 30 seconds for it to dry in place, but you can see it's pretty well bonded. And so now we have this surface area here and here to apply our glue, so we can now put our panel in place, and we have a nice secure connection there. And these are the rods I've been using here, by the way. Okay, so now we're just applying our glue here and here, and we'll put this into place here now. Alright guys, here we now have the completed wings. They've been painted with camouflage gray. And you can see the pieces we created blend in quite nicely with the opposite side. So I am very happy with the way all that turned out. Alright, next step is to paint the red markings. We're going to proceed with that. Alright, and after we do that, I'm going to go ahead and actually install some lights here. And the lights I'm referring to again are the ones that you see in Empire Strikes Back when the X-Wing is stuck in the swamp there. He turns on these spotlights. There's one on top, one on bottom, and it's hard to tell where they were actually positioned on the mock-up that they used to film with, but I'm going to go ahead and position pretty much in the corner, somewhere around here. And we're going to use chip SMD lights for that since the space is a little tight there. And chip SMD lights are flat as well, so that should work pretty nicely in that confined space. So again, we'll proceed with that after we do the painting of the red stripes. Okay guys, well it's time to apply the red stripes. So obviously we're not going to use the stickers, but I am going to use them kind of as a template here because they were made for this particular toy, so they should be the right proportions. Along with that, however, I am going to use our reference photos as well. So this is what they look like, and so I'm going to go ahead and mask everything off, and I'll get you updated here in a second. Okay guys, here we now have the finished wings. Overall, I'm very happy with the results. You can see there's a little bit of a mishap here. I didn't quite align these bars properly, but it's not all that noticeable, so I'm just going to leave that as is. So it's now time to move on to lighting. So the first thing I'm going to do is install the anterior wing lights here, and then we're going to work on the engines. Alright, so with these anterior lights, the plan is to use these chip-sized SMD lights, which I got from modeltrainsoftware.com. I've used them in previous projects. And these now are wired to a resistor. That's going to allow us to hook this up to a 9-volt battery so we get maximum illumination out of this chip. Seems like there's a lot of space here, but there really isn't. So that's why I'm going to use this. And also I don't want an LED protruding from the surface here. I want it nice and flush. So what we plan to do here is to drill a hole into the plastic, and then we're going to mount the chip from behind, and the light will shine through the hole like that. So I'm going to start off with a smaller drill bit and move up to a 7/64 inch drill bit. Okay, the way we're going to mount the lights is we're going to glue them onto this styrene piece of plastic here, like this. And then this piece is then going to be glued into this section right here. You can see there's a dot already on here, and that's because I've already aligned it with the opening there. And that way we can attach this piece to the wing and not have to worry about securing the light to the wing itself here. So we'll be able to use a little bit more adhesive, securing this piece of plastic in place. Alright, so you can see our chip light is now glued to a piece of plastic, and this already is the first one here that we've already installed. And you can see it's being held in place here using our Loctite glue. And I'm also going to use some hot glue just for some added security there. So it looks a little messy in there, but it does work. Let me just go and show you a light test here. And here we now have the lights lit up, and it's definitely giving me the desired effect I was after. And even though the lights are small, we're getting a pretty decent amount of illumination. Alright guys, well I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, but before I wrap up I wanted to mention one other thing. There have been a few people that have asked if I could make a template for the styrene piece that I cut out here for the wing, and I did just that for you guys. So if you're interested in this, just contact me at interstellarmodeler@gmail.com. I'm going to send it to you as a PDF, and you can have it for free. Now bear in mind I did not use any fancy computer program to design this. This really is just a simple tracing of the wing. And so what I did was I took the cardboard piece that I used for my own model, and I scanned it, and then I used Photoshop to create the diagram that you see here. I also included the markings for the scribe panels that I put onto the piece, and that way you can utilize that for creating those panels as well. It includes some brief instructions here, and the recommended thickness of the, at least that's what I recommend anyway, that's what I use, is 0.40 thickness 1/4-inch plastic, and you can get styrene sheets from evergreen scale models. And always remember to have some strips of styrene available as well. These are thicknesses that I used. And I also have sheet styrene that is this thickness as well, and that's what I use to cut out this larger rectangular piece. So one suggestion on using this template is you first of all might want to run off a couple copies. With your first copy, I would cut it out, be sure that it fits your toy. It should, because they're all made the same, but there might be some minor modifications you need to make here and there. Next, what you could do is get a hold of some carbon paper, and if you're old enough to remember what carbon paper is, because I have some staff at work that this subject came up and they had no clue what carbon paper was, but essentially, if you don't, it's paper that's designed to be placed under your original, and as you trace it, it will transfer the tracing onto the sheet below the carbon paper. So you might want to first practice with some cardstock or some light cardboard and trace your pattern on that, and then that way you can cut it out, see if it fits again. And then when you're ready to transfer it over to your styrene, basically do the same thing. You just anchor everything down, you trace the pattern onto the styrene, and then you proceed to cut it out of the sheet of styrene. Now, just a reminder, if you've not cut styrene plastic before, you don't have to cut all the way through. I apologize, I did not record this, but really just making a partial cut is enough. When you bend along that cut, the styrene will snap. So again, you might want to go online and take a look at what other people have done. What I did was I kept things simple here by not creating this X configuration. There are a number of people who have done that online. One guy actually made wooden braces to be able to fit the wings into. You know, there's a lot of extensive modifications you can make, but my goal here was to make the X-Wing in a closed configuration. That way the ship can either be displayed landed, or if you hang it, at least now that we've created these panels, you have detailing to make the model look complete. Alright, well that does it for now. Again, I thank you again for watching, and we'll pick up then in part 3 where we will start work on the engines. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me here at my YouTube channel or at innerstrugglemodeler@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in part 3. Take care!